They're after me, Bess. I have to hide. You have to hide me. As if enough of our world hadn't turned upside down in a little over a week. There was my vibrant, haughty aunt, the wife, or perhaps by now the widow, of the most significant personage any of us had ever laid eyes on. There was tiny Aunt Evelyn, without her makeup, her hair in disarray, an ogress suddenly, made as ugly and vulnerable looking by disaster as by her own theatricality. And there was my mother, blocking our doorway and looking angrier than I could ever have imagined her. Never had I seen her in such a fury, nor had I heard her utter a curse word. I didn't even know she knew how to. Why don't you go to the von Ribbentrop's to hide? My mother said. Why don't you go to your friend Herr von Ribbentrop for protection? Stupid girl. What about my family? Don't you think that we're afraid too? Don't you think that we're in danger too? Selfish little bitch. We're all afraid. But they're going to arrest me. They'll torture me, Bessie, because I know the truth. You cannot stay here. That's out of the question, my mother said. You have a house, money, servants. You have everything to protect you. We have nothing like that. Nothing at all like that. Leave, Evelyn. Get out of this house. Astonishingly, my aunt turned to me to plead for sanctuary. Darling boy, sweetheart. How dare you? My mother shouted and slammed the door shut, barely missing the hand that Aunt Evelyn had helplessly extended toward mine. The next moment she threw her arms so tightly around me that against my forehead I could feel her heart thump. How will she get home? I asked. The bus. It's not our concern. She'll take the bus like everyone else. But what did she mean about the truth, Ma? Nothing. Forget what she meant. Your aunt is not our concern anymore. Back in the kitchen she buried her face in her hands and was all at once convulsed with weeping. The responsible parent scruples gave way, and with it the strength she rigorously employed to hide her weakness and hold things together. How can Selma Wishnow be dead? She asked. How can they arrest President Roosevelt? How can any of this be happening? Because Lindbergh disappeared, I asked. Because he appeared, she replied. Because he appeared in the first place. A goyish idiot flying a stupid plane. Oh, I should never have let them go get Selden. Where is your brother? Where is your father? Where to, she seemed to be asking, is that orderly existence once so full of purpose? Where is the great, great enterprise of our being the four of us? We don't even know where they are, she said, but sounding as though it were she who was lost. To send them off like that, what was I thinking? To let them go in the entire country when... Deliberately she stopped herself there, but the tread of her thought was clear. It was clear enough. When the Goyim are killing Jews in the street. There was nothing for me to do except watch until the weeping had drained her to the dregs, whereupon my whole idea of her underwent a startling change. My mother was a fellow creature. I was shocked by the revelation and too young to comprehend that there was the strongest attachment of all. That there was the strongest attachment of all. How could I turn her away? She said. Oh, darling, what would Grandma say now? Remorse, predictably, was the form taken by her distress, the merciless whipping that is self-condemnation. As if, in times as bizarre as these, there were a right way and a wrong way that would have been clear to somebody else. As if, in confronting such predicaments, the hand of stupidity is ever far from guiding anyone, yet she reproached herself for errors of judgment that were not only natural when there was no longer a logical explanation for anything, but generated by emotions she had no reason to doubt. The worst of it was how convinced she was of her catastrophic blunder. Though had she gone against her instincts, she would have had no less reason to deplore what she'd done. When it came down to it, for the child who was watching her being battered upon by the most anguishing confusion, and who was himself quaking with fear, was the discovery that one could do nothing without also doing something wrong, so wrong, in fact, that especially where chaos reigned and everything was at stake, one might be better off to wait and do nothing, except that to do nothing was also to do something, In such circumstances, to do nothing was to do quite a lot, and that even for my mother, who performed each day in methodical opposition to life's unruly flux, there was no system for managing so sinister a mess. And we will pause there.